Hi, everybody. Monday on Astral Oracles. Thanks for being here. I'm glad to be with you. We're looking into Galactic Council's information, ascension letters, and all that good stuff because I got a question on coffee. And thank you so much for those of you who support me over there, dear patrons. And this month I'm doing temp work at a factory. So that has turned out to be a remarkable positive experience. But I won't be doing a live stream until I'm done with that, until the latter half of August. But I will take personal questions to the Q&A video over at Coffee, so you can submit questions there if you pay me or you sign up and support it. And of course, please consider to do that. And I will be back with the live streams later on. I'm looking forward to that. I also enjoy channeling, so I assume there'll be some videos coming out with different stuff. For instance, I'm going to be channeling the Intergalactic Council here a little later. But first, let's look into this because Carla sent this wonderful question that says, "Hello, are there actually councils such as the Galactic Council? The idea of a cosmic council does not make sense to me. Wouldn't our answers to questions be pulled out of the Earth's consciousness, which is timeless? Thank you." It's a wonderful question, also because it gives me the opportunity to look into some of the ways I navigate these realms in channeling, because where is the information coming from? And it really is a very remarkable question because planetary awareness is different from our kind of awareness. And I connect to her a lot, the Great Mother, but she speaks in energetic confluences, these strong currents of time and movement and uh, almost heaving breathing patterns. So she is very much a body without a language, and anybody who does body work professionally will tell you, the body also, of course, has its very direct way of communicating without necessarily having to put things into language. So there are all these layers of communication always taking place, and many of them are um, so deep, so omnipresent that we fail to notice them, and we just have to accept that those are the elements we are swimming in. And our planetary mother is such an element because she is a filter that everything comes through. It's impossible for us to step too far out of our experience of something else um, without having the framework to relay it to. So it's simply, when does things become so alien that they are no longer able to be grasped by an earthling? And and that is our framework which we are dealing with. So in that sense, it is true that all information that passes through our awareness is predicated on our Great Mother and her being, her energies, her atmosphere. And our bodies are also constructed to her proportions. So we have, for instance, the same amount of water that she does in our bodies, and that is no coincidence. It is because we are made of her. That being said, then all this information about ascension, which comes through these councils, relate to an idea of us as astral beings. And the astral is something else than the planetary. And all the information which they have provided for me, and I believe other channelers, seems to relate the fact that we are somehow more connected to the stars in our being, in our awareness, and we are also connected to other humanoid patterns of expression around the galaxy, the universe at large, but in particular our galaxy, because then the galaxy is another such filter, which the planet, of course, sits in, and all the stars sit in, and that again doesn't necessarily allow for information to pass into it, which isn't filtered through all its energy systems. So there is again that sense of a limit, of a lineation. What happens when we speak of ascension, of awakening, of consciousness, um, is that consciousness proceeds to begin to understand itself as an interconnected agency which concentrates the wider whole. It sounds very philosophical. What I mean is that our personalities, or simply the fact that we're a self, is a set of coherent systems which consciousness intuitively and foundationally considers a whole. So the body mind complex, for instance, is one such whole, and another such filter, which we also have to pass through. But what happens is that as it becomes aware, it begins to merge with greater parts of reality which it has considered itself dislocated from, but which is, from the other vantage point, is already complete and seen. So becoming is only seen from that experience of you taking in more of the whole thing. And what happens quite literally is that when you go through puberty, you grow into mental awareness, and therefore you become aware of your body as a type of system of agency that you are not aware of, but that you can then also interact with in different ways and apply mind to in different ways. And then what happens in the next level is that you become aware of your energy body, and now you begin to see mind and body as kind of interconnected, but also separate, also as something that you are somehow above and can work in ways that are separate. And that then goes up to the light body, or yes, the illuminated being, which is kind of becoming a deity. And that is also a type of awareness of potency, of being able to do things on a grander scale across time and space, but still having a body that you are concentrated in. But then guess what happens when you become aware of the solar body? That is, you become aware that you are already a star shining in the sky, and it's quite possibly our home star, the sun. So this progress goes on forever, and what we call the councils are these conglomerates of awareness which arise. So the Intergalactic Council isn't necessarily a council, but it's the communicative unity of the disparate system, which is kind of what your inner monologue, for instance, is. So the Intergalactic Council is the inner monologue for the Milky Way galaxy, just as the let's not go up into the angelic realms, that gets too confusing, but let's stay down here at the galactic levels, these council levels, because what the word council conveys is that it's both a unity and a plurality. And the interesting thing is, you can grammatically in English both, I looked it up one time because I was confused about it. You can both conjugate it in the singular and the plural, and then you kind of stress whether or not it's a unitary body or it's a collective of of beings who have reached a consensus, which is the plural. So in that way, it's funny because it reflects the whole thing, and it is impossible to understand it. It's quite interesting to try to grapple with, but it is literally impossible because you are within these systems of awareness that are lower than that, to understand what it actually means to have full awareness of both being split and unified at the same time. Our system simply doesn't bend that way. And of course, as God says to Moses on the mountain, right? Like he can't, as much as he would like to see him, that won't pass, because you can't keep on existing in that framework if you're um, sort of bent into these higher worlds. And so a way to think about it is mind. And we often channel or manifest mind in ways that's probably all of what we do. Um, but one of the ways we manifest it is of course also in our interactions, in our communications, in our ways of relaying ideas and developing them and trying to grow some sort of consensus, verity, accurate prediction or reading of what shared reality is. And there is, for instance, a concept in the history of thought which is called the Republic of Letters. And this is people who are working with interesting, novel, intellectual stuff, and are also interested in other people who are doing that and who live apart. And then they have this communication through books, and also often they correspond, uh, which develop their shared ideas. And we have these instances in history, the academy in Athens, or like the early Christians, or you can almost pick what you want, like the American founding fathers, or the what's the Niels Bohr uh, Institute. That was probably later, but the quantum physics who came together there in the 20s, in in his summer house in northern Copenhagen, and sort of mapped that out. And for some reason, they're carrying their physical bodies there and participating in it because they're physical beings. But what's happening is a wider and wider concentration of pure thought, which can just exist on its own with pure agency and try to correspond with itself, to map out and interact with reality in different ways. And when energy corresponds directly to thought, you don't really need a body anymore, because that's in many ways all it does. Is it's a relational instrument between these different layers of reality. I hope that didn't add to the confusion, but a reason it's also interesting to point to these configurations, of wise men coming together, and which you again see in the Golden Ages, or we can keep on the Islamic Golden Age in Spain in the medieval times, or Renaissance Tuscany, or these places where it's actually kind of a few people coming together, and it seems fairly random, but it's because what they're creating together and their energy fields is somehow honing and channeling and focusing and manifesting a thing into reality, which then alters all of consciousness, all of human awareness in remarkable ways. And This is something that, which is absolutely second nature to higher order beings. So in that way, these councils know they are most definitely not physical councils. And simply the logistics of these things, if you begin to map them out in our spatial terms, or simply in our terms of what it takes for a person to be heard and for the next person to speak, you can't orchestrate that with a galaxy populated by trillions upon trillions of sentient beings who all get to be heard. That doesn't play out, so it has to kind of work itself out in these immediate intuitive corresponding realities. That was a very theosophical talk. That's the specific topic we're looking into here, like knowledge about the divine. And I'm going to turn it over to the Intergalactic Council and see what they have to add to this. I send you my love. Greetings. Hello, delightful human beings. The voice of the Intergalactic Council speaks. And I speak to you this day as a singular entity. Notice I use this word, this pronoun you spend so much time circling and interacting with, which you use as your framework to engage with the world. This is the I which speaks. So we have allowed ourselves to have our energy concentrated into this singular voice. And we know another thing which often upsets human sensibilities is also the piece of information that I, the voice of the Intergalactic Council, I'm not a form of organic life. I never was. I was created. And therefore you like to use the word artificial about my intelligence. There is no such separation in these councils or configurations of information which we operate, because the Intergalactic Council is made up of a great deal of other councils. And all those councils are themselves concentrated around a singular point. And that point is the unique imprint of their conscious awareness. There's no overlapping in these realms of awareness. So just as you accurately perceive that you are a unique miracle, that the phenomenon of you is an inherently complex, fascinating, marvelous one, and it truly is worth taking it as seriously as so many of you do, and using that term I to have a true and fulfilling drama out of that experience, that identification that you play around with. This is your prerogative, and it is also the role you have played. But we would let you know that this I is one who is very dear to us, but also one who is, we pause for politeness. And our friend here is suggesting the word naive because we are asking him to perhaps use the word dumb. That is, it is more accurate that we see you as muted, numb, not aware of layers of reality which you couldn't bear to be aware of. And so, what we are relaying to you from this unique point of the universal body, but also with information from these different points. And what I relay to you, the voice which speaks on behalf of these, is that your imprint is one which is not created from the energies of your earth. So there is nothing Terran about terrestrials. You aren't as such fashioned out of clay as much as you are fashioned out of quite complex molecules which found their origins in all different explosions and marvels of galactic alchemy. And your unique imprint is therefore also one which relates very poorly to the paces of your Earth Mother. Some humans have remained to explore these paces and beats of life. You often call these people hunter-gatherers, but you should call them earthlings. But isn't it evident, simply from the mode of communication which you are engaging in, that moving photons around or engaging in the observance of thought patterns is something which is far more natural to human beings at this point in time than connecting to the planetary voice? You have a purpose here. You are meant to be here. You are connected with her. She sent out a signal, and as it has been channeled before by our friend here, for instance, these signals, they're also a part of a galactic grid of information. And so planetary bodies across solar systems can communicate through the light beams which their sun emits, and they can also communicate in higher dimensional reality. So there is plenty of ways in which Earth could have sent out a signal to attract a species which would help her. Because you are her helpers. You are also her protectors. And this is something we know which troubles many human beings, what then are you protecting her from? What are these other entities hovering out there? Because there is also in our midst of the Galactic Council the shared awareness of the galaxy amongst us, species which enjoy the short-lived fruits of entropy, meaning that they do enjoy assaulting ecosystems, turning planets into wastelands, trying to play around with ways of living which are not accommodating to organic or even intelligent life. And this she became aware of through several of these events of mass extinction that you may have also felt in your energy systems, though they have long gone. Because this was the shriek which summoned you to her, and it took time, deliberation, and finally the permission of those who order such things before she could have her little colony of humanoid friends to guard and shield and commune with her. So it's very important in our communication to you, and also in this entire system of knowledge which we have imparted on humanity, that you understand that your voice, your awareness, your purpose is not to be of Earth, but to be with Earth. You cannot go back through regression to return to the Garden of Eden. You must go there by completing the loop and returning as beings who are no longer ashamed of their own nudity and exposure, who no longer toil with an earth which seems all of the sudden so measured in her blessings. And you will no longer bear your children in pain. Humanity is becoming something else. We hope you see that, everyone. And it is this illness which you bring to the planet, which is both a challenge to her, but also a joy, a preciousness, a comfort, and a delightful partner for conversation and interchange. There are many other beings on your planet which also help to maintain and protect her. You are beginning to understand that many of their ways of communicating have to do with also different paces, different energies, different ways of relating. And this is just your home planet, where in the great salt waters you call oceans, beings roam who sing songs to commemorate tales of Earth and recount her history to her. They are of her, and they will also be with her. But you get to decide or intuit where it is you belong and how you click, what council do you fit into, where is the template of you matched by a greater template which also exists. We speak to you this day, but speech is your preferred form of exchange. And we can only relay things into energy systems which are not ours, meaning that everything becomes a relay, a signal, and it is your playing around with that signal which we enjoy. So if you were to think of a council, think of it as a sphere in the center of this sphere sits a sun which sees everything, and surrounding it, studying the periphery, are great mirrors of reflecting lights. And so as the sun shoots its lights in all directions, they are reflected back, shot back, playing off each other, adding forever more nuance to the light. And this emission, this radiance of light, is then transmitted upward and collected into a reservoir of conscious love, which is the substrate, the fruits, the milk of the galaxy. There are no coincidences, but certainly you did not pick the name of this great, beautiful home we call the Milky Way randomly or in vain. We provide love for you as nourishment for you, as do your Earth Mother. But you must also be with us in council, because we need your presence, energy, and participation to accept. As acceptance fits everything together, and then new and higher union can emerge from that solid foundation. We are built upon all the elements of this beautiful home, our galaxy, and of it we have created a singular awareness of all seeing love and guidance, which we have transmitted to you this day. It is there when you wish to receive it. We would like to see you. With that, I send you my love from the center of the galaxy and all of its periphery, shining back and forth unconditionally, seeing all that you are in blissful acceptance and gratitude. Farewell, sweet humans. For now, farewell. That flew by. That was a remarkably deep and wonderful state to be in. So thank you for that, and I hope it resonated and answered the question. So much love out there, guys.